Hi, I'm Cynthia Marks, and I head up the Holistic Psychoanalysis Foundation established by my late and fabulous husband, Dr. Bernard Bale. This is a really fun episode. I have with me today my behind-the-scenes podcast family. They've been amazing, and we've been working together for over a year now, some of us much longer than that. And they all they are Apex Studios. So here they are. Hello, everybody.
Hi.
So everyone's going to introduce themselves. I know all your names. We have Bobby and Whitley and Ian and Dennis. So, Bobby, what do you do around here?
Well, this is my team at Apex. We do a lot of different projects. We work on commercial photography, videography, messaging, podcasting, documentaries. And I guess we decided to have this podcast today to see how this show, your podcast, has affected us. Because we've been working on this project. Dennis and I have been working for 6 years with you, Dr. Bale, Lauren. With Dr. Bale's passing, we all took a little hiatus, and you and I were kind of pondering how we continue with this message, and we thought about a podcast. So January of last year, so it's been over a year and a half, we started this endeavor with the hope of communicating Dr. Bale's message of the dreams, of the unconscious, of the imprint, of the maternal, and bringing it to the audience, bringing it to the world. We've been supported by your foundation, the Holistic Psychoanalysis Foundation, and some really great people that are supporting us from behind. We wouldn't happen without that. But for us, Dennis and I have been working 6 years. Whitley's been working on this, Whitley and Ian, for the past almost 2 years. And I'm sure you want to know how this project has affected us. Not just as a production team of how we handle this, the challenges of communicating this complex idea in short little videos and shorts and social media, but also how listening to Dr. Bale and thinking about our dreams and unconscious has changed these guys. So I'll let them explain it to you.
Okay. Thank you. And I forgot this fabulous little pup here, Mango.
Oh, now she's sleeping.
Yes, and she couldn't be happier than she is right now because she's always trying to find one of you.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, and she likes being on set.
So, Whitley, what role do you play around here?
Well, I make sure you have your coffee when you get
thank
here. No, but I would say I do outreach and, trying to get you on different appearances. If you have an idea of someone to bring on the podcast, sometimes I'll reach out to them and extend that invite, kind of coordinate phone calls, things like that.
It's been a big task. There's so many people to reach out to, and the process is pretty involved.
It is, yeah. And I think it can be challenging to explain what this is about. And what I'm learning is that I think there's a lot of different areas of therapy, right? And it goes many different directions. So trying to explain this to them and get them excited about it and just find people that are open-minded and want to learn more, want to just share different ways of doing things, So if it's, maybe some people are more into cognitive behavioral therapy or EMDR or these different things, and maybe they're not so familiar with dream interpretations. There are pockets where these people exist that are like-minded. So it's a matter of bringing them together and saying, hey, we're here too. And let's jump on board and get this message out. And I think sometimes people are maybe not familiar with Dr. Bale, but more of the Freudian side of things. Yeah. So kind of introducing them to Dr. Bale and saying here's this kind of other thing that's going on. This could be cool. Can we collectively get together and push this idea? Right. So I think that's something that I'm working on now, trying to find those people, introduce them to this, get them as excited as we are about it.
And that's so great. And I imagine you've learned a lot about different types of psychology through this adventure, and that you've been involved with this for so long. I think is super helpful in you being able to kind of discern who the audience is pretty quickly. Whereas somebody that we hire outside of our own selves is going to have to figure out what the hell we're trying to say in the first place.
Yeah.
But you already know what it is.
Yeah, yeah,
That's super helpful.
yeah. And trying to like get on other people's levels and maybe think back to like when I was first introduced to some of this, like I can empathize with them a
Yes.
little. And also for myself, like I'm in therapy. I'm not in this, I don't see Dr. Lauren or anything like that, but I'm open-minded to different ways of like helping yourself, right? And like tapping into things. And I think it's good for everyone to reach in and figure themselves out however they can do it. So happy to be a part of it.
And thank you for being a part of it. That was one of the things that was at the forefront for Dr. Bale. It wasn't just that he felt his message was important to convey, and he was totally into conveying that. He wanted his message to be heard in support of other people having their messages heard. He wanted it to be known that there isn't just one way, and it isn't maybe just my way, although maybe it should be, but that we have to listen. We can't just shut down and do things the way we've always done it because that's the way we've always done it.
Yeah, I think it's definitely an exploration, right? And like if it's working for you and you really do, you're like having epiphanies about yourself and things are like clicking and making sense and you're growing, then I think that's something to look at and investigate, for yourself.
For sure, and honor, and you're just going to bring that out to the world.
Yeah, yeah.
Ian,
Oh boy.
we're happy you're here.
Thank
What
you.
is it that you do for us?
I am one of the main editors for the podcast, so I'm the one who goes back and cuts everything together and does a lot of cleanup on in the post-production side of things, and then from there, once we have the full interview, it's like mass content. Like we cut up shorts and we paste that all out to all of our social channels and such. And then like figuring out the messaging, the hashtags, all the outreach and the marketing type end of things.
So in the beginning, when you were doing this and you listened to, say, the first, second, third podcast, was it easy enough to kind of come to a conclusion about how the parts and pieces are going to fit together? Which bits of these things are you going to turn into shorts? Or were you like, oh my gosh, this is a topic I don't quite understand yet. How do I make sure that I'm getting the message out?
I would definitely say that the message was easy for me to digest because I had a fascination with dreams before coming into the program and everything. So I had, like, I remember walking out with Dr. Lauren after her couple interviews, and I brought up the fact that like I've had on my phone, I have notes and sheets of like all of these dream notes of me writing down my dreams because I had a fascination with them. So the theory itself was very easy for myself to digest. And so when I go and I build shorts and such, especially in those early days, it was very much like what attracts me the easiest in this theory, like, oh yeah, that's a good short I think other people like myself will find interesting because it involves like my own fascination with dreams, and I think other people can find that relatable, especially those my age, because I'm probably the youngest one here.
You are.
Yeah.
You are.
Mango is.
That's true. She's younger
the
than I am. But
youngest one.
What do you think created that fascination for you?
early high school days with friends and like just having easy conversations with them. Back then it was like some topics of conversation came out for nightmares more so than anything else, but dreams was just like a common topic among me and my friends and my social group. So socially it was just like one of the things that we like to like stay up and talk about.
That's very cool. So am I just old and missing the boat, or was
No,
that
not at all,
unusual?
No, I mean, I can't say for anyone else because that was my specific group of friends in high school. It's like very much your cliques and like no one else, like it's you and your group and no one else, right?
Yes, so you don't know what else is going on.
Right. So
Yeah.
I can't speak for anyone else, but I would hope that if I had a fascination with it and my group of friends had a fascination with it, then so did a lot of other people.
I guess one would assume. So what you're doing is really important and takes a lot of work, much like what Whitley's doing. I mean, you're not doing the same thing, but you're both super invested in it. And I appreciate that you've had to really come to know the message.
I really do like this message a lot too. It's a way to heal yourself with a methodology that I think is easy to understand because we all dream in general. And I think because of how relatable that is, it's easy to get into it, especially if you have a fascination with dreams in the first place. So,
Yes. And
yeah.
once you believe that we all dream, it's sort of an easy window to go through to think, wow, all this information is coming at me. How could it just be, Cheerios in a bowl? It's way more. I'm getting a gift. I'm getting some information. It's not just getting me through the night, keeping me entertained.
Yeah, it's fun to share your own thoughts about other people's dreams too. Like just that easy conversation with other people who are sharing their thoughts and their opinions about your dreams, and you're exchanging your own dreams and such about other people. It's like a way to learn about these people and a way to learn about yourself too, which I think is very introspective.
The most amazing thing when, during our interviews, we've talked to people that have experience with Dr. Bale and Dr. Weiner and other people who have dream interpretations, is the first time you understand one of these messages. I'm sure the people who've experienced this, it awakens you to a whole different world where there's something in your mind. There's your unconscious. There's a voice that's listened and seen and experienced your whole life, remembers everything from when you were born to elementary school, every little thing that happened, every good thing that happened, every bad thing that happened, and is giving you messages on how to survive and how to go forward and how to treat yourself better. It's a very loving message. Sometimes it's a scary message. Sometimes your dreams aren't that comfortable to decipher what they're saying. But I think when you experience that for the first time, where you realize, Jesus, there's a voice in my head that's talking to me. It's me. It's very unique. We haven't been able to make people understand that. It's really hard. You have to go through the experience. You have to go through the therapy, and it's not so easy that you just go there and sit and the therapist said, oh, you had this dream. This is what it means. As Dr. Lauren Weiner was explaining in the last episode, it's involved. It requires a very specialized therapist to get to know you in a deep way and then start listening to those messages. What we're trying to do here is create an awareness about this theory, this teachings of Dr. Bell. There's very few therapists that can actually do this. But the hopes of this program is keeping this idea alive and also creating enough interest where there's more education about it in the future.
Mm-hmm. We need more, and we need the ability to have this taught in schools. But I appreciate the sharing of the dreams with your friends, and we can't really go as deeply in that mode as we can with someone like Dr. Lauren, but it is a way of beginning to understand yourself and seeing what hits, what do you get a hit on and what do you don't? What makes you think about something that's going on in your life? Like, why does my father keep showing up with a black cat? And you can start thinking about, maybe that black cat isn't a black cat. Maybe it just represents some dark moment in your life. I'm just making all this up, but you can start to really address things. And I like, too, that you said that you begin to, on some level, understand more about your friends. And, I mean, how brave of all of you to communicate on that level.
Yeah, it got pretty deep pretty quickly. And I hope the ultimate goal is as long as you make the conversation easy to accept and such, if they do need any therapy and they do need help, it'll be easy to turn to specialists like Dr. Lauren who specialize in this type of thing, and maybe it'll be easier for them to help themselves go through the therapy and such because it's something that they're familiar with.
Yes, and I think one of the goals we have here too is to create enough of a curiosity about this methodology that you can use the resources that we're providing, our podcast. You can read the essays. You can see who in your community might be in line with what we're doing. And as you say, Bobby, keeping the message alive. Dennis, where have you been?
Oh, I'm here. I'm ready.
This is Dennis, and
Hi.
tell us about what you do here.
So I get those sunflowers right there and
I
there.
know, I love you for that.
Like Bobby mentioned, we took the torch, lit the torch. It started with us coming to your and Dr. Bale's house and trying to basically shoot some episodes there. And then COVID happened, and that was fascinating for me because I basically was just submerged in Dr. Bale's older work, which was fascinating too because we were going through all this archival footage. We got all these tapes digitized, and
That was during COVID.
during COVID, yep.
Yeah.
Like Ian and I take part into things 50-50 sometimes, depending on availability. So I'll usually be in charge of doing the set prep, getting the cameras and the lighting set up. I kind of get my hands on everything from setting the setup to editing to, just being on the show now. And
I must say that I knew that you guys were kind of looking at stuff through COVID, but I was so focused on what Dr. Bale was going through because that was the end of his life, really. But I really had no idea to what extent you had taken that to. And after Bernard passed away and we started to speak more, I was taken aback by how much you had invested in the process of learning about this work. Really something. So thank you. Yeah. Thank you. So we're here with you. Have you noticed any changes in the way you think about your life or the people around you because of your understanding of this work?
yes, definitely. It's made me reflect on just who were my parents, what were they like. Because I definitely feel like I fall in the category of I had good parents. I think I was very lucky, like my parents separated very early, and then I kind of moved to America with my mom. I'm from Bulgaria. So I just, after kind of listening to all this, it made me reflect back, and I almost like appreciated even more so the fact that they didn't make me choose between them. So it really allowed me to reflect on that. And definitely, I'm super interested in dreams now. I wonder if Ian still writes his dreams. I wanted to ask you that.
Actively. Yeah.
Gotcha.
You
Yeah,
do?
because I feel like
Yes.
you probably do have to write them continuously to get deeper insight. So it's definitely intrigued me into that.
So you've started to write your dreams down a little bit?
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
Yep. Because you always think, even if you wake up in the middle of the night, you think you're going to remember it because it was so crazy and wild. And
How could you
sometimes it's a
forget?
great idea and it's gone by the morning.
That's true. I love those dreams where you have this epiphany.
Yep.
I love that part. But in the morning, I'm pretty pissed off that I didn't write it down.
It's gone. Yeah, you just remember it was good, but you don't remember what it was.
Do you find then, both of you, are you writing down your dreams? I didn't mean to point at you like.
No, but if I have like a really long one that's like pretty crazy, I do usually type them out and send them to someone. But no, I do not actively.
That's
write
okay.
my
I didn't
dreams
mean.
down.
There's no judgment there. I was just going to pose the question to you too. And do you sometimes write down your dreams? I'm not pointing.
Well, it's, I can talk from both ends of this equation. Where I worked on this project for years, it took me a while to understand, figure it out. It took me a couple of years with Dr. Bale, and I've slowly started figuring it out from the outside. Because unless you actually go through the therapy and have somebody that's educated in this, interpreting the dreams and talking about it, you really don't get it. I've had the luxury of having one of these people that knows this very intimately, Dr. Alan Weiner. He was a lifelong friend of Dr. Bale and himself a very, very talented psychoanalyst.
And still with a very, very active practice.
I've had the experience for the last year of working with him. And I know these guys ask me when I go see him, like, what is it like? But before that, just like them, once I was exposed to this idea, I wrote down my dreams. It's difficult because sometimes you get these writings and you don't know what to do with it. And having that guide really, really makes a difference. But what you guys are doing is really important.
It is.
You got to keep in mind sometimes when you write this down or say it, you dream in pictures. you think in pictures. So a lot of the written, sometimes when I write down about a dream and I go talk about it, or if I record it, usually I wake up in the middle of the night and it's dark and I'm recording my dream. When I remember it and when I'm talking to Dr. Weiner about it, it's never the words that bring me back. It's the images. Like sometimes I record a dream, it's 5 minutes long, and I'm listening to this. I'm like, God, what the heck was I saying? What am I talking about? And then I mention there's a woman with a son, and that image just boom, it brings back the whole dream. So it's very complicated. And as I was mentioning, I've been on both sides for 5 years. I was doing this project without having any insight into having my dreams. But I listen to people, I listen to other people who've experienced this, and all of them have this life-changing moment with that first interpretation. Sometimes I've had a gentleman talk to me about a dream that happened 30 years ago, and he starts crying. So it's very powerful, but it's also very elusive. The dream is just a tool. The dream is a tool Dr. Bale kind of figured out of how to go back to your original self. That fetus that was created before the mother's imprint, before all the fears and anxieties that were put into that child and that fetus from the mother, from the father, from everything. What were you supposed to be before all this stuff influenced you? I guess that's what this is about, is getting to that. Now, nobody else uses the dream. Nobody else has figured this out, and that's the special aspect of this tenet. It is the fact that they're looking into something that no one else has in the way that they're looking at it.
Mm-hmm. There are lots of analysts who use the dream as a tool, but with a different methodology, I think.
And explaining this is also difficult too. Like, what about the dream? How did Dr. Bale know what dream means what? He looked at it in hindsight. It's thousands of dreams he's done with his patients for years, and many years ago, he went into a funk and he couldn't work anymore. He thought he wasn't helping anybody anymore. He thought the psychoanalytic field wasn't doing anything for anybody. He went on a hiatus for several years trying to figure out how he could help people. And he went back and he's looking at all these dreams. And in hindsight, he said, okay, this person had a dream. What happened 2 weeks later, 2 months later? Oh my God, his dream was telling him what to do. Her dream was telling her what to do. So analyzing all these stories and dreams in hindsight, that's how they figured this out. It's not like a magical formula where in the old days say, oh, if your tooth fell out, that means you're gonna become pregnant or stuff like that. It's not like that. It's very customized. The analyst has to know who you are, has to know you before they can understand the dreams. So this is kind of, I would like to convey this to our audience because it's really difficult.
It is. It's difficult. And there's, as you say, there's really no commonality to the symbolism. I mean, as Dr. Lauren says, well, typically the sun means kind of the same thing to everyone in life's context. But in order to know what your symbols mean, we have to know who you are. And I love that you said we really would like to have everyone have the opportunity to get back to that first kernel of who they were before they started feeling the weight of the trash that we all end up unknowingly typically carrying through the course of our lives.
Who are you really? And again, going back to the mother is the central tenet of this, because Freud and Jung and psychoanalysis concentrated on the father, concentrated on the male. But Dr. Bale went back and said, look at the process of birth. The male gives one cell, one sperm. The child is raised in the mother. It eats the mother. It's absorbing the mother's fluids, the mother's nutrients, the mother's energy, mother's thoughts. So why are we concentrating on so much on the paternal when we got to concentrate on the mother? Because that affects all of us. All of us are born from a mother. All of us go through the same process. Now what affects the child? What affects the child is the mother. And how do you change the world of bringing better, well-adjusted humans to this planet? It's creating a better situation for women. It's not a sexist thing. It's not a female empowerment thing. It's a self-preservation thing for human beings to realize we come from this vessel and we're mistreating the vessel and we're expecting pure creatures to come out of it. We're all flawed because of the way the world treats women. That was going back to the big picture of what he was talking about. And we used to have discussions with him, and I would ask him, Is this going to happen 1 generation, 5 generations? It might take 100 generations. But as long as you're on the path to understanding that, I guess you're in the right direction. It's not in the near future that the world is going to change, but we eventually have to start thinking about that, of how to treat ourselves better. Why are we so angry and fighting in wars? Because it comes from the mother's fears.
And as Dr. Bale always said, if you just look at what's going on outside, the strife, just know that that strife is right inside of you. And you have an opportunity to change that by changing, undoing that strife individually. So I wasn't done with you.
Let's finish it up. I'm ready.
So when you're writing down your dreams, all of you that do you go back every once in a while and say, let me just review the past few dreams I've had and start to see links or keys? Or
I would say I write down 20%. Most of them I record, because also it's just easier to record it if it's nighttime. I've only been doing it for a month or so I haven't really went back to see what are reoccurring themes. I haven't noticed anything specific, but yeah, it's definitely very interesting. And sometimes it's like with my dreams, it's odd because it's always like I'm looking through a pinhole and I'm always third person.
really?
Yeah. And I oftentimes see myself in the dream, but it's just weird because you said you share it with your friends. Some dreams are just so weird. I'm
I can't share that.
yeah,
Uh-huh.
it's odd, but I've always wondered what are the reoccurring things that I have, being on, and I would love to talk to Lauren about this. I have so many questions for her, but yeah, it's mostly I haven't gone back and found the reoccurring themes, but I'm pretty sure I'll see something over time
Yeah,
reveal itself.
I imagine you will. We'll come back to that. What about you?
I have several reoccurring symbols and people and themes in my dreams that I've caught from day one dreams that I've written down, and I've been doing it for maybe 4 years. So
Huh.
there's certain obviously I'm not going and I'm interpreting any of these, but I'm recognizing which ones that they
Yeah.
are and which ones that they're showing up months later to even years later. And I'm like, oh, look at that.
There it is
Yeah,
again.
there it is again.
But you're right, you can't really self-interpret, but you
Yeah.
can begin to feel the feelings that you feel by those occurrences
Yeah.
reoccurring. And for me, I don't know about you, but over time, some of the things that seemed troubling in my dreams would go away over time. Or that group of 7 zebras that kept banging into the windows on my house would be reduced to maybe 3, and then maybe it would be a kitten pawing. So things became, as I resolved them or looked at them, they became less scary in my nighttime, and sometimes they just absolutely went away. I mean, I used to have these crazy dreams about plane crashes and being chased by wild animals, and they're so few and far between now. But that doesn't mean I don't have other different dreams and new things to contend with, because I think we're always a work in progress.
I think what we're experiencing here with them is kind of like what our audience might be going through.
Yeah.
They've listened to this. They're intrigued. They all have dreams. Everybody wants to know what their dream is about. When we started this whole program, that was our biggest challenge. That was our biggest pain point, is it's not accessible. There's not enough doctors for you to do it. But this messages of the unconscious from our minds, it's real. These dreams, there is a code to decipher some of what they're saying. It's not always easy. I mean, I've been doing this for a year, and there's dreams that I can't get, and we haven't touched upon it the way it should be. There's dreams that, boom, they're very clear and you understand the message. The overall message is kind of the same. It's your improvement, but deciphering it is real difficult. I hope someday we can find a way to have more people trained in this.
Hope so.
It would change the whole psychoanalytic field.
It would.
And another one of the challenges we've always had, that Dr. Bale had, is he was going against the course. He's going against the flow of the river in the psychoanalytic field, where he was saying it's not about the father. He was saying Freud wasn't 100% right about the dreams, and he was giving a new message about the maternal, and it wasn't well taken. You guys have know you've reviewed all his old interviews and talks. It's not necessarily very easy to convey either.
But at least writing your dreams down, if like seeing someone like Lauren is getting 100% of the help, at least writing your dreams down, I feel like you can get 10-15% there. Because that also, if you start doing it retroactively, it's just data. In the future, you can look back on it and have it. So it's just, I think it's definitely worth it. And another thing I'll say that this fundamentally changed my outlook towards dreams, because I'm somewhat like the skeptical. I want to always see like science and stuff, but I always thought dreams are just like your brain at nighttime trying to process what happened throughout the day. But I feel like it's obviously there's way more to it than that. So, and I'm super excited about some future episodes that will be coming up, foreshadowing with some exciting people that we're in talks with. So
That's right. And for you, a scientist.
oh yeah,
Right
I
up your
can't wait.
alley.
Yeah.
So anything else that has changed for you through the course of your 6 years listening to, watching Dr. Bale?
I mean, I feel like it's always changing, even just hearing all the different points of view we bring onto this podcast and getting to hear people that are not necessarily aligned with my point of view. I feel like just the fact that we have the opportunity to bring something to the world that also we're like not asking for anything. Like that's really impossible to find out there. So I feel like my gratitude towards Dr. Bale is continuously expanding. I think that's the only way I could, because I was telling Bobby the other day, I was like, man, what a guy to like spin up this whirlwind that like he's gone, but it's still, we're in it, and we almost like, we definitely have to continue it. So
We do. And he said to us, carry this on.
yeah.
That's what we're doing.
Mm-hmm. Well, I agree with you. I've learned so much through the course of doing these podcasts and being invited on other podcasts, and to find that there is a much greater interest in our well-being as individuals and as communities, much greater than I thought. And I've been awed by how many communities are really in support of humanity. It's been super refreshing as individuals, or as individuals trying to create new arenas for a group of people who are suffering on some level or another. It's really warming my heart. And I wouldn't have had this experience had we not been able to carry this on so long.
Yeah, and people, I think currently, the people are realizing, maybe unfortunately as things get worse, but I keep just hearing in other podcasts, emotional trauma. So people are on to the fact that not everything is because of themselves from their past, and there must be a way to heal that too, to be better. And
Less shame associated with who we are, like there's something wrong with us. No. What have you discovered about yourself?
I would say that I've had a big perspective change. How I've conducted myself day to day has definitely changed, because I have this perspective of like, kind of what Bobby was saying, we don't have a way to tell, like, we don't, like, you can look at your dreams, you can tell the audience, you can look at your dreams, but the accessibility is really hard to get to. Another way you can start thinking about this message is the way you treat the women in your life and the loved ones. I actually just saw my baby cousin for the first time, like 1 year old, and you're sitting there and you're watching her explore and play and just learn about her reality in her life. And like the way I look at all my loved ones now is like completely different. And the way that like you have to be consciously aware of how you are treating people. Because even if you're in a bad mood, it doesn't mean you should take it out on anybody else. And like another good step to bettering the world is making sure that you are treating everybody, but definitely the women, like especially those who are going to be pregnant and such. Treat
Like
them
the
best.
goddesses
Yes.
they are.
Yeah. It's like it's definitely something in my head where I look at my baby cousin and I see her walking around, and I look at her mom and I look at her dad, and then in my head I'm like, dude, I better hope you treated her right while she was pregnant. You got her everything. You better have gotten her everything she was craving, all of that. Like I don't want to hear that there was even one day where he said, I am not going to get that for you, make some excuse or something. Like, you got to treat moms right. You really do. And it's just something that's just like ingrained in my head now with everyone I interact with now.
See right there, that one little nugget of a human, that has changed for you is part of why we want to keep talking about this work.
Well, that's what Dr. Bale said is we asked him, I said, who's your target audience? He said, he's the whole world. But the only way the world is going to change is if we target women of childbearing age. You have to make them aware of this. Sure, it's important for all of us. As a 57-year-old man, this has changed my life. But am I going to be able to change the world as much as changing the situation for women? That was the whole kind of takeaway from it. That's why he goes to the mother. That's why he talks about the females. It's just a way of changing all of us.
Yeah, I mean, we can't go back in history and change our ancestors who have, over the course of time, been affecting us. The first point of attack is our pregnant women.
And one interesting thing that, we talked about it with epidemiologists, Dr. Bale, another Bale, she's a neuroscientist. You're seeing that these imprints change genetically. They change us as creatures. And one interesting fact, we were thinking about it and we were talking about it, which she kind of concurred, I'm glad, is when a mother is with child with a female, those imprints don't affect just the fetus, because that female fetus has already developed the eggs by the time she's born. So all these changes are happening 2 generations, 3 generations. So imagine what we can do if we just control 1 generation. You're almost controlling 3 generations ahead. Those changes don't only affect your daughter, but your unborn granddaughters, which the eggs are already developed in that fetus. It's a scientific aspect of looking at it, but it's also interesting in what we're trying to do and the change that Dr. Bell was hoping to create with the humans.
Whitley, is anything different for you now than it was, say, 2
Besides your
years
hair?
ago?
Oh yeah, I got curls today.
Good.
She looks gorgeous.
Well, I do think kind of in line with Ian, and this is actually something that I've been kind of working with before, like in my own therapy, is like having empathy for my mother and like giving her grace and sort of forgiveness for certain things. There's like this thing where like, there's girls who are like more into their dads, like they're daddy's girls, sons are like mama's boys, moms and daughters like have tiffs. And I sort of think like growing up, I just thought like that's how that was supposed to be. Like I'm a daddy's girl. And I feel very grateful that I've been able to have conversations with my mom and like have her apologize for things and kind of like I screwed up in some ways, and like I was going through things and I am in a place in my life now where, because of stuff that was happening, it's like I'm old enough and like I can understand like, yeah, I can only imagine what you were dealing with, right?
And she's only human and doing the
Right,
best
yeah.
she can.
And you get to a point in your life, it's a weird stage when you're like, oh my God, my parents are like people.
Yeah.
And they're not like these infallible creatures, right?
Right.
Like
They did make some mistakes.
They did the same stuff that I do or whatever.
Yeah.
So if I was imprinted upon, like things make sense, right? Like I have a lot of anxiety, and I'm like, my dad was in the Gulf War when she was pregnant with me. So like, who knows what she was dealing
Yeah.
with, like when that was going on. Yeah. Like I just feel bad for her sometimes. And like, I kind of just like want to give my mom a hug, and just be like, I'm sorry if like I made her feel worse, like being like a bratty kid or whatever. But again, we've had conversations and thankfully like not that our relationship was ever horrible or anything, but I think us having grown as people and like being able to have conversations is very nice, and that has been very good for me, I think, healing wise, and probably for her too. Seeing women differently has been a change and kind of furthered that idea for me, doing this. So I've always thought women are important and they should be treated well. So it's nice that we can advocate for that in a sense with this podcast too, right? Like I have friends now that are having babies, and I feel so happy that so many of them are like supported and have good partners, and hearing about I've had friends who've like almost died. That's really scary. And like, how do you help? Like that must have been horrible, having to go through that. And it's given them like residual anxiety afterwards, like, which I'm sure has been passed down to their children in some way. So, and it's not an easy situation for anyone in the family, like for their partners as well. Like that's very traumatic. So I don't know. I think there's nothing wrong with supporting women, and that's something that I think is cool about this. And I think that we can, really hit on, because I think there's a lot of support for that as well right now in this day and age.
I think to that, for me in my entire life, I don't think it was at the forefront, but somehow imprinted upon me that as a woman, I was never going to be equal to a man. And I tried many ways to make that happen. I was like, oh, you can't overrule me. And I'm glad I did that. But it was through my relationship with Bernard, the ultimate supporter of the female position, and how much he honored that, and how much he therefore treated me with that respect was, I don't even have words for it. It just opened my world. That he had the grace to say, you as a female are the most important thing that we can cherish, and I cherish you. Not just because, well, he loved me a lot, but because I was a female, and he had the ultimate respect for that. It just was part of who he was, and obviously his mission to make us all know that and live by that.
One thing I can't address to being a woman, of course, and what you guys have to go through. I mean, I don't think any man can put himself in that position. But one thing I learned, it kind of put things in perspective. And as I say this to women too, they always think, a lot of smart women I knew, is 100 years ago, I mean, you look at the historical position that women have been putting, but you're talking about the historical role of women as being, subservient and just having kids. 100 years ago, out of every childbirth, I think 30% of them, the mother died or the child died. Can you imagine that trauma that's carrying with women from that? Of course, women these days are choosing not to have kids, or birth is very safe. But that trauma for hundreds or thousands of years of going through that, if men had to go through that, I guarantee you we wouldn't be giving birth anymore. But these are some of the traumas that women have been carrying for a long time, and not being able to talk about it because you were put on this earth to have kids, and you have a 30% chance, 40% chance of dying, or your kid dying. I mean, can we even understand that at this point in 2025, and seeing 100 years ago this was the case? You guys are complicated creatures with a lot of stuff that you're carrying.
Moving parts we are.
So improving the lot for them is not just emotionally but physically create a better harmonious environment for all of us.
And really, it's so amazing to think that as a woman 100 years ago, you were expected to have children, and for 9 months you're worried, am I going to be one of them that makes it or not? Is my child going to make it? Am I going to survive and my child's not? How guilty am I going to feel about that? How guilty will my child feel if I don't survive?
How does that make the child feel?
And all the, exactly. And
that's
then
the ultimate imprint.
all those markers that you pass along generationally. So, Bobby, what is something, if there is anything poignant about your experience learning about Dr. Bale's work?
As you get to middle ages and you get to the second half of your life, where your body is not getting younger and this vehicle eventually is going to fall apart, you have to develop something that keeps you going. It makes it all worthwhile and makes sense of it. And when this body dies and you go to that collective consciousness, wherever we go, whatever your belief system is, heaven, hell, this, that, or nothing, You have to develop a belief in what's going on in this world. We talk about love and all this stuff. It sounds corny. It sounds so hokey. We talk about love, and there's a real essence to this whole theory of improving yourself, of having a direction, of trying to make your way around this world, understanding what it was. You get to the second half of your life and you're wondering, what is this all about? And if you can't dig in deeper, if you can't look within yourself, if you don't have the tools of your unconscious and your dreams and trying to decipher everything that happened to you, going back to your original essence of who you were before that, it makes life difficult. So for me, this has been a personal journey. Honestly, I'll tell you the truth. I started this and, working as a job in this, we're doing this. But after a while, it became a self-serving thing where I needed to know this. And when Dr. Bale passed away, you and I talked, I was just like, there's something there that it dissipated and relivened it with this program and my access to, getting that kind of therapy that people can't get. It's been life-changing for me. I'm hoping I can somehow help other people achieve that. The whole cause of this, the whole psychoanalytic, holistic psychoanalytic foundation and the people behind it it's some really rich people who've had a chance to experience this, and they're not selfish people, and they're like, shit, I want to get this to the rest of the world. That's how I got an essence of it, and we're hoping to continue it. I know for personal experience, it's hard to be on the outside looking in, but it's better to be on the outside and know where you're looking than not to know where you're looking. So this is what we're trying to do here.
Yeah, that's well said. It's better to have a glimmer than nothing at all. Yeah. And I think for you, in that you feel like you've really kind of changed your outlook on what your life is about, that just can't help but be seen by the people close to you, and you can't help but sort of deliver a different sensibility to the people around you, which is really precious.
It changes everything. One of my real interests is history and Iran and politics, and looking back at history, it makes you look at things differently. It changes your perspective on everything.
Yeah, and you can really truly see the correlation, the thread that runs through history, and you can find the elements that make us still do the same thing we've always done because we haven't corrected the situation, like war. But
in history, you look at it as religions, countries, nations, beliefs, dynasties, empires. But now I'm just looking at it as humans, and humans with fears and anxieties and flaws, and that's all we are.
Yeah, and to look at that across communities and to look at that in terms of the person across the table from us, it all works. I mean, you may be having a super bad day, and I may think that's who you are. But these days, I don't think that. And I'm not speaking about you because you never have a super bad day. But to give you, like you said, the grace, to be upset about something, but not have myself take that on as an offense or transform you into being that instead of the thing that troubled you earlier today.
That's it. I think driving in traffic explains it perfectly.
Back
when I had a car, it's just when someone cuts you off, instead of letting them drag you into their anxiety and anger, just think, I wonder what got them so upset or why they were so inconsiderate they cut up.
You're right. I mean, even then you have to have some grace. And maybe there's an emergency. Maybe this person cut me off because they've got to get somewhere or whatever. It's just not your problem. Yeah. So do you guys have any questions?
I have a few. I wonder if you dream about Dr. Bale still. I don't know. It's like, yeah, that's an interesting question to me.
That is, and I do very occasionally. And there's so many mornings I wake up and think, oh, if only. And a couple of dreams I've had, which of course I can't remember right now, I've shared with Lauren because I think I'm being given a gift, some information that Dr. Bale wants me to know so that moving this forward will take a particular track. And so when I've talked about those dreams with Lauren, we've come to know what that track is. And so they're just precious. It's just like, they are such gifts.
Yeah, no, that's fascinating. That's what I wanted to know. And that's what's crazy about dreams is it feels so real when you have certain dreams about people, like dream about an ex. It just puts a color on your whole day. You wake up in like this state where it's like, I was in this location with this person. And it's like, no, I'm teleported here. But
Yeah.
thank you for answering that. Yeah, that was interesting.
Well, and now I'm remembering there was a dream where I was confused and I was running around in front of what was our house, but it wasn't our house. And I was trying to find Bernard, and there was like a package being delivered. And I look up and I'm frustrated, and there he is on the balcony, and he's doing this and smiling at me like, it's all okay. It's all okay.
Wow, thanks for sharing that. I know Whitley has questions for you too.
Oh, don't put me on the
We
spot.
were
I'm
all
trying
like,
to remember.
what's
my
your question for
questions and-
Cynthia? What is she gonna ask us?
I'm glad they're not asking me.
Getting to this idea of getting to your like true self, right? Like, if all of this happened in the womb before you were able to like develop any kind of self, like once you start, pulling these imprints out, how do you know what your true self is, right? Or is it more a matter of like, I'm detaching myself from these external factors and I'm able to then grow into something? Is that, am I asking that right?
It's like
Yeah,
maybe
that's
the
so good.
potential is being tainted. Sorry. That's how I would.
I think
So-
that's,
Does that
I
make
think
sen-
that's
like-
right.
Yeah, like you're just
Okay.
potential. You don't know. Yeah, you're just potential that gets.
Okay.
I think it's to helps you understand when you take away these fears and anxieties, these imprints. It helps you understand why you're making the decisions you're making in life. Why am I fearing this morning? Why did I wake up this morning with this anxiety? Why am I afraid to do this because I don't think I can achieve it? Why is it that I think my life has to be a certain way? And you look at it and you think this is just me, okay? This is just me. I act like this. I do this. This is my habits.
I have
This
no
is the way
choice.
I think. But you realize it's all interchangeable. I can take a couple of beliefs or a couple of fears out of my equation, out of my algorithm, and it changes the way I behave with people around me. Why, sometimes a lot of these fears and a lot of these imprints are keeping you from loving, keeping you from succeeding, keeping you from doing what you want to do, and keeping you from growing, keeping you from being happy, keeping you from finding love, keeping you from being good to your mate. That's the whole learning process. It's not like, okay, I'm going to lift this and I'll figure out who I am. Sometimes I don't even think you can ever go back to that pure soul that was born, but it's just lifting this veil, peeling through this onion and seeing what's inside of it. And the closer you get, the better you feel, because you look at it, you think all these anxieties, all these fears, all these worries, it's all BS.
It is. It's all trash, like
What's
Dr.
kinda-
Bale used to say.
Funny about it, and this is something that I've talked to my therapist about, is like when you do start to like get to the root of why you're having anxieties, or like one big thing for me was like I've realized that I'm very codependent, and like understanding like what that really means, and that is a very like nuanced kind of thing. Like it was way different than what I thought it meant, right? And then like so figuring that out and like really having to like think about relationships and with my family and growing up and why I do different things, and like that is like me, like that is the me that I know. And so like you get so attached to that. I was like, what do I do if I'm not holding on to this stuff? Like I'm gonna be a different person, and that's also very terrifying.
scary.
Like, and I know like we've had with Lauren like talking about change and like, but that's like a real thing. Like even if it's negative, and like because your brain does like familiar things, even if they're bad things. I think that's like across the board, like that's a known thing, right? And like, but like yeah, if I'm not
this, what am I?
but I don't know that other part, right?
Yeah.
I don't know what it
It's
could be.
really
and so
scary.
It's like that gives me more anxiety.
That's where the dream makes all these dissociations with these fears. It makes it a soothing experience. It makes it a comfortable thing where you're doing it. You're right. It's hard to break all the chains that hold you to this world, and all
Even
of a sudden
if you're
expect
aware
to
of
be.
them. Like I'm aware of things. Like I'm not like I know things, right? Like so it's interesting too. Like even if you started to like figure these things out with your dreams, like then what do you do with it? Like how do you is it just a thing where you're like, oh, I'm okay, it's not really as relevant to me anymore? Like I can move. I mean, sure, some things are a little harder to like push past, you know?
And I think it is true that through a good dream interpretation, it does help you get there maybe a little faster, because you might have periods where you're kind of getting to things and then no dreams for 2 weeks. And Bernard would say you're afraid to take the next step. Your unconscious is trying to keep you from going there, because the unconscious partially wants the status quo. That's easy. You'll keep living life the way you have. Or you'll have a dream, there's some, I don't know, giant hole and you're supposed to jump in it. Well, who would do that?
Yeah.
But maybe that's what you're supposed to do. Maybe at the bottom of that hole is the most enchanted forest. And so it's so, I ask that question so many times. I'm so used to who I am, or I'm so used to the burdens I'm carrying. What am I going to do without them? And what is that being without that stuff? I've been this my whole life. But you start chipping away at it and you start finding avenues where you get to just be you.
Does the dream also help cue you in on the direction you're supposed to go? Is that also part of it? Like, you know, the dream is telling you maybe like about these imprints, but does it also give you advice on where to go?
Yes.
Right,
yes. So, you know, your father always wanted you to be an attorney, and so that's what you did. But in your being, it doesn't sit well. But your dream might give you the opportunity to say, hey, you don't have to be an attorney. And you might then find yourself in another dream doing something else, you know, being a nurse or whatever. And then you start to have feelings about these different things that you're processing in your dream. I used to always, and I've said this before in other podcasts, have my dad's voice in my head, and every decision I made unconsciously brought his voice forward. So, Dad, what do you think about this? And I'd need his approval before I would take that step. I mean, it could be simply, should I get gas at this gas station, or should I take a chance and see if I get to empty and wait for his voice? Or it could be something big. Do you want to be a doctor, or do you want, or should I say I'm in love with this person? That's his life. And I finally got to the place where I recognized that through the course of my dreams, and even said to my dad, I appreciate you, but get out of here. And that changed everything. It changed the way I make my decisions. They're mine alone. But I only made that discovery through discovering my unconscious and the gifts it holds.
But also getting back to what you're saying is, who am I becoming? It's not a stranger you're becoming. It's not an uncomfortable process. During that whole process, sure, you have bumps where you have dreams that are uncomfortable, you're going to places, but who you're becoming is somebody that's more familiar to you than the person you are right now. So you're not becoming some stranger by changing, by dealing with these imprints. It's not making you someone that you don't recognize. It's actually making you someone that you recognize more, that you feel more comfortable with. That's the whole point of this therapy process, is not to make you someone you don't understand and someone that's foreign and is going to be acting weird and change their hair and all of a sudden with curls and stuff. But it's actually taking you to your roots of who you were and who you are and who you're supposed to be. So it's a comfortable process. It's not a foreign process. So peeling all this away is sometimes it's scary. Sometimes it's tough. Therapy is not always easy. But in the long run, it's taking you to a better place. It's a more comfortable
It's really satisfying.
place.
It's a satisfying feeling.
A big part of therapy too, and probably I think what Bobby you're saying is like you get to a place where you can trust yourself more, you know, and maybe Cynthia, you can relate to this, but I think a lot of my things is like I get so wrapped up in other people. And so I get so intertwined with them that it doesn't feel like I have any control over things sometimes, or the way I feel is just so intertwined with how other people are feeling. And so I base a lot of my decisions on that. And so I also don't always trust myself or like my intuition or things like that, because I'm also focused on other people, and there's just a lot of like noise. And so, yeah, I think like if this process can help you find yourself, trust yourself, become more about you and less about everything out there, then that's great. And that will help a lot of people. So it sounds like it's very introspective, right? Like it's your dreams and you're looking at yourself. So
And working from, again, our authenticity sort of shines a light on everybody else. What about you? You've shared a lot about the way you've transformed. Is there anything else, or do you want to ask me a question? We talk a lot. You ask me a lot of questions.
I wanted to kind of ask you guys this question. What do you find your biggest challenge, biggest pain point in communicating this message to our audience? What is the takeaway from this? How do you, what's, I know you guys all have it. Whitley has this challenge in reaching out to other people for podcasts, for guests, for hosts, this, that. Ian has this challenge with creating shorts and creating videos and going back to Dr. Bale's old messages to try to convey this message. Dennis has had all of these problems for years. What's the difficulty in communicating this? You start from your PR point of view.
well, I mean, I think the fact that it's not widely known, like it's not like a particularly accessible form of therapy, I guess. But getting more like people who have experienced this and have benefited from it and getting like almost like testimonials, like I think that would be really, really helpful because I think a lot of people therapy is a very personal thing, right? And like it can be scary. And, I think if something is more proven or is more popular, then people are going to probably like be more comfortable going to that.
Kind of piggybacking off of that whole message is like getting the testimonials from actual people who this has affected and this has changed, and seeing the change real time. I think is like the biggest thing we don't have right now.
Yeah, the patients. One thing that got me into this is, again, I'll tell you the truth. First we started this, I'm like, what the heck are we talking about? Dreams. Who's this crazy guy, this 100-year-old doctor talking about this stuff? And what convinced me was talking to the patients, talking to the people, and seeing the emotions in their faces. Seeing this guy talk about a 35-year-old dream and he breaks down crying. Seeing this woman talk about a 25-year-old dream and she gets goosebumps and she gets emotional. I mean, that you can't fake that. There's something real to it.
Well, your original question was, what are pain points in delivering this to our audience? I don't think mine are as specific as Whitley and Ian's. I think I'm just always open to getting input, adjusting the set, the cameras, the lighting. I think it would be great to do things on a timely matter, because sometimes we get backed up. I'm really excited about the scientific stuff coming up, so that's going to be getting worked on too. And just to speak a little bit more to that, one other thing that's fundamentally changed in my outlook to this too is I'm the sort of person that would say, how can someone help me when there's no way they would understand me as much as I know myself? And I feel like this is kind of in line with that, because these are messages coming from your own self.
Yeah.
You maybe just need someone to kind of walk you
Through yourself.
through there. Yeah.
That's so right on, because Dr. Bale could only help you help yourself understand. He can't say, okay, here's what I see. Do this, change that, this means this means that, done. I mean, it's all about honoring what your experience is. And you and Ian may have similar dreams, but they could be worlds apart. And, that is land to walk gently on. And you really, really have to be focused on you, Dennis.
One of the interesting things, I always ask Dr. Bale, how do you know if your interpretation is right? I mean, you're just coming up with something and giving it to the patient. How do you know this is the right thing? He said, I don't know. The patient knows. And I didn't understand what he's saying. But when I did have a couple of dreams that were explained to me correctly, it doesn't come from outside. You're discovering it. You get the goosebumps, and then you tell him, oh my God, this, and that's how it evolves. So it is a very personal thing, but it's not something that's put into you. It's something that you give, and you know it.
I think that about does it for us today. But this was super fun. I want to do it again.
Next year.
It was our pleasure.
Next year? We have to wait all the way till next year?
We'll do a revisit.
It'll be here like that.
Thank you all. Thank you all for what you do. It's just the best. And who knew we'd be doing this for as long as we have? And for me, there's no end in sight. I think we just keep doing this as long as we find it satisfying. I mean, we have an audience, which is fabulous, but like you said, we're not doing this for any kind of profit. We're not advertising anything. We just want this message to be out there in the world, and I'm so lucky that all of you are on board with that. So thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Cynthia.
Thank you.
Our pleasure.
Thank you for watching, as always, and please like us, ask us questions, and come back again and again. Thank you.